So I think this is like part 3 on this John Deere transmission series. I didn't do much this weekend, just kind of looked at some things. What I did figure out is this one, which came out of it, which is worn. I don't know if you can see the wear in it, in that area right in there, is pretty good. This one that had the nicks in it, I welded the nicks up and I spun it in the lathe. I chucked it in my lathe and spun it, and it's got quite a bit of run out to it. It'll wobble pretty good. So what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna end up welding this one up, which I'm gonna end up pausing you guys and doing that, and I'll bring you back after I weld it up maybe. And then I gotta set up the lathe to turn it back down to the proper diameter so that we can put it together. Hopefully gonna get some of that done today. I do have some other things to do this week, so this might be delayed till tomorrow. I'm not real sure, but at any rate, we're going to try to get some of this done, depending on time, availability. Today, we're going to get a little bit of this done, and I'll bring you back when I got this welded up, and then we'll probably take a break, and then I'll bring you back when I got it set up, and probably won't show you machining it, but I'll bring you back when I got it set up, and then when I'm done, and then we'll go through the process of putting it together. So, all right. So we welded it up, kind of crummy. I just chucked it to make sure it looked okay while it cools. I'm gonna lay it on a grinder and kind of grind this back a bit. And then I found a tool holder. Hopefully this one's gonna work. I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to learn this all myself. I do have other options. I have this guy. So if I have to, I will come in with something different. If I've got some tool steel. So it's just basically now trying to figure out what's gonna work. This bin bucket or tote there has got some tool steel in it. So I found this new tool holder, but it's the wrong angle. So I went with the straight tool holder that I have. And we'll go from there and see what happens. If this doesn't work, then I'll do something different. I'll figure something different out. And we'll see what happens. Because hopefully I'll have some time to some point today to do this, because I'd like to get this done. And that way I can start the process of reassembly. I've got to clean my bench off some, because we're going to end up using the bench vise to do this. I think it'll be easier to hold the case that way. So I got to clean up the case halves and some little stuff like that. So we're just going to see how this day goes. I do have some other things I need to do with my welders, so I still have that prepared to go, because I'm still working on this tractor in the background. Really haven't done a lot with it, but because we're focused on this job right now. So yeah, I'm going to pause you guys and we'll come back to this. So I thought I'd bring you back real quick. We threw that on the bench grinder. And yeah, there is some gaps in that weld. I think it'll be okay. We're going to go ahead and spin it and see what happens. Anything's got to be better than what it was. We're really looking to build up this end and this end to help it support the bearing better. I think that the little gaps will be okay. If it's not, we might put some metal filler in there or something. But the only way to really know is to get in there and turn it. It's really hard to weld this stuff up. In the situation that we don't have a proper machine shop, so we're just basically doing what we can to fix this. I don't know how available the part would actually be, and with one the one we've got is already bent, you know, and one is just worn terribly. I figure anything's got to be better than what it was. It's a pretty long bearing in there. I mean, it covers that whole span right there. So I would think that we should be okay. We'll clean it really good when we're done. Might even put a little grease down into it. Just some things to help it. So I thought I'd bring you back for that. And I'll pause you guys and we'll come back to this later or when I get a moment. All right, guys. I think we got this. We're going to test fit this here. It measures pretty close. You can definitely tell the shaft is a little bit bent, but not as bad as the other one. I cleaned it up about as best I could. I come up with this setup. It was below center, which is not good, but unfortunately that's the best I could come up with. So until I can get some new tooling for this lathe, we're going to run with it. I ran a flat file across it. I ran some memory cloth across it. If it's a little bit too much, maybe I'll chuck it back up and do a little flat file work and see if I can bring it a little closer. But I mean, overall, I hope it's gonna work. We're gonna find out, maybe even yet today since I'm home. Yeah, I'm gonna stick it in here and see what happens and clean. Then if it looks good, then I'm gonna clean that mess up so we can get it in that vise. All right, so I'm bringing you guys back here. What happened? My lathe tool setup didn't work out. As you can see, it come loose and made a hell of a groove in that. Both shafts got some wobble to them, so I picked the other shaft, the one that we had already kind of dismissed, because it was bent. But I went ahead. I'm going to go ahead with it anyways, because at this point, that's probably our best recourse. Let me raise you guys up a little bit here. I had to pause for a bit here. I had to make a piece. See, work my air here. See how you guys looking now. See if you guys can see me pretty good. Pretty good. I'm going to do my best here. I'm trying to read in the book, trying to figure this all out. Lighting's kind of sucky today. But nevertheless, we've got a cluster gear, counter gear set up. So let me get a rag laid on the bench here so we can get this put back together, because it does matter which way it goes. So get a couple of rags laid out. This bench is a little dirty, and we want to try and keep the parts as clean as we can, as they are going back in the transmission case. So hopefully this thing put together, and then you can come pick this up. Or if I get his way, I've got a 110 that I'm eyeballing on Facebook right now. It's up his way, so if I get that way, then I'll probably just swing through his place and drop this off with him, because I want him to have it back. I have not siliconed anything yet because, well, we're not there yet. But anyways, we're looking in the book here, and it tells us how to put this all together. But we've got a lot of stuff, because I tried to take it apart and not lose a lot of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy out, because he's going to be in... he might have to... It doesn't show it in there yet. So, and it's showing us building the other half of the case, too. The half that's over here, I haven't cleaned the gasket off of this half yet. So I think we're going to try and assemble this as best we can on this half, and then just put that other half on it. But, you know, stop my music here, but whatever. 'Tis life. So what we got to do is we have to figure out what order these go back together in. It would appear it's a descending order. And it looks like there is a spacer between them. So what I'm doing here is, I don't know if you can see this. Usually gear teeth will have a taper on them. I don't know if that's coming through or not. But it shows it going together with a spacer. It shows this little gear, spacer, next bigger gear. Then it shows another spacer and the biggest gear going together. So that's what we're currently working on right now, which is a counter gear. I think we can get this in there. We'll lift this gear set up. And this runs against that, all that input shaft. There's an idler gear in here. There we go. So we got all that together. Obviously, I've got it clamped in the vise for easier working. I did clean up the gasket surface about as good as I was going to get it, which we're going to do over here again. I'm going to bore you a minute by cleaning up a gasket surface, but it is life. Sometimes you get the boring stuff with the good stuff, so they say. I do not always use a grinder to do this. Sometimes a good, sharp gasket scraper will do the job. And that's what we're using today, is a good, sharp gasket scraper. Don't sharpen them on your grinding stone. You know, hit them with a flat file. That'll clean them up good enough. If you keep them maintenance, sharpen them about every other time you use them, or every couple times you use them, they usually stay pretty good shape. Also, another thing is they make different kinds of scrapers. Let me show you if I got one handy here, if I got it handy. They make a carbide scraper, and man, that thing works really good. In this case, it's not sponsored or anything like that, but Pro, that's a carbide scraper versus this one happens to probably be, I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says Snap-on on it, regular old gasket scraper. Something my dad gave me, the old Snap-on set. So I use it as much as I can just because I like it and it seems to work good. So that being said, that's what I like to do. So what we want to do is we want to put this next. We want to put the shift fork assembly together, which is a little difficult to do. I remember this from when I did it last time. Of course, the gear lube will hydrolock that stuff in there too. There's 2 spots, indents where it rides in the case, and my hands are getting pretty oily at this moment, so I'm not, if you guys are okay, we're going to skip that step. We're going to pull this gear out. These guys back in their home. The reason that we're going to do it this way is we're just going to go ahead and assemble this as best as we can. This guy drops in here again. Sometimes it feels like you're doing things twice, but I can assure you that if you have a memory issue, you want to do it this way, it is so much easier. The problem with reassembling at this point is that some things do require you to go ahead and put some parts in. They got to duck around. I just got to get this brake shaft to cooperate with me here, and we'll be all set. I think this is where it goes, or does it ride right there? I think it rides right there, actually. Then there's a gear. Rides on the brake shaft. Like I say, it's just a game of getting it all lined up. Then you want to clean up your gasket surfaces, make sure they're good and dry, because in this case we don't have a gasket, so what we're going to use is some gasket maker. That's what he brought me. That's what we're going to go ahead and use. Like I say, that input shaft is pretty tight now. It's not the way I wanted to fix it, but unfortunately, with my lack of resources right now, I don't have any other way of doing that. So we're gonna clean this up good. He brought us Right Stuff gasket maker, which is probably my favorite. Right Stuff. That stuff works really well. It holds good. It really does good, especially if you're into oils or something like that. I've had really good luck with it. There's other ones, Black RTV, for instance, which I used on my mom's oil pan, and hopefully it's going to work out right there. But nevertheless, use what you have. This is what he brought me, so this is what we're going to use. And quite honestly, I would use it anyways. I usually get it in a can. It looks like a can of Cheese Whiz, basically, and that's what I typically will use. But in this instance, we're going to go ahead and use what we have. I usually like to run around the bolt holes too, and so you'll have some excess squeeze out of there. I'll try to pick you up here in a second, give you an idea what we're looking at. I'm just trying to. You don't need a lot because this is a really tight surface, so a little bit is going to squeeze in there really well. Just remember that little is a lot sometimes. The results will be amazing if you just take your time. Of course, we're going to struggle putting this together. I did last time, although I think it might go a little better this time. We'll find out. This will probably be quite a long video because this is going to be probably the end of this series. We may make some videos on this 110 that we're using as a prop to hold this thing, but anywho, I'm not sure. So I don't know if you guys can see this or not. There's a nice little bead laid around there. I try to go around the bolt holes just to help it seal better. I don't want to leak. This is in kind of a difficult spot to get to, so, you know. But don't mind me. I'm trying to do the best I can here for you guys. Using a, surprisingly enough, I'm using a roll of duct tape to do this. So don't mind that. The bad part is we got to duck around a piece because this one gear goes up in. So that's where I struggled with it last time. I believe it was getting that gear to go into place. And I think we're going to probably struggle with it again. I have an idea though. What we're going to do is we're going to take this gear off the brake shaft. We're just going to throw it down here in the case. As the case goes together, it's just going to go naturally go where it wants to go, and then we'll just have to try and turn everything and line it up. So sometimes we have to do things differently than originally planned. The last time I saw this thing, we did all new seals, and I think we did all new bearings too on the everything. Because we didn't want to have to do this again. So unfortunately, the input shaft was just that bad that we couldn't keep a belt on it. So we went ahead and made the decision to pull it apart, which I might have put that gear on upside down. Guess I'm gonna have to clean that up now. Poop happens, you know. You don't want to put that back in there all dirty, so we're going to wipe it down good. Make sure there's no direction on the, and there is a direction. It's probably had it backwards. Make sure when you're looking at gears, if there's a taper to it or something like that, put that so it goes in the direction it slides. Always make sure that, always look at your gear teeth. That was my mistake. I didn't look. I just assumed, which you never want to assume. Probably make it go together a little easier. We'll see. As I recall, it didn't go together very good the first time, so. I recall I ended up doing something different. So I think I know what I ended up doing last time. I think last time I ended up pulling this shaft through here, through this case, and then, because I think I struggled to line this gear up last time too. I think I ended up putting it together outside. Yeah, I think that's what we did. I think we ended up putting it together outside the case. Of course, you know, these things want to fall apart when you take them apart, but when you're going to put them back together, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes they just do not want to cooperate. So it does give us something more to hold on to. Let's do this for like the third or fourth time today. And of course, you got to go evenly. I think the other problem that I ran into last time was getting the shift forks to line up. So I think I had some troubles with that part of it too. Now, of course, you don't want to mess up your gasket surface, so that makes it even more difficult. But we're going to get there. We're just going to have to take them in and slow down. Maybe even get some light over here so we can really see what's up. Sometimes light is the biggest thing you need. Somebody's not lining up here. Who's not lining up? Somebody's not happy. Somebody's not happy here. Now let's see who's unhappy. Somebody's a little unhappy on this matter. We're just got to figure out who it is. See where we're not lining up.
up at and try to get it to cooperate.
You got to remember, all these shafts are going to go into spot pockets in this case too. So they're supported on both sides. So what I think we're gonna end up doing is getting another pair of pliers than that. Just see if we can rotate it a little bit. And then we'll go from there. There we go. That's better. Like that. That's what it needed. Let's see if we can tap it a little bit. See what's going on here. Probably nothing major now. Let's get a rubber mallet. Get her dead low and knock that down. See if it'll just tap down. You don't want to pound on it. You just want to tap it. Sometimes things don't always go back together super smooth, so you want to take a second, slow down. In this case, it could have a shift fork not quite lined up, which I think we do. I think that's where our problem lies, is our shift forks aren't quite lined up here. And so what we want to do is just take our time, be cautious. Just try to move them around and give it a little tap. Occasionally give it a turn just to make sure, you know, you don't want to, you're not trying to force this together. If you force it together, what you're going to find is you're going to have something bound up and things aren't going to work, and you're going to have to take it back apart anyways. So your better bet, take a few minutes, rotate things, make sure it's staying tight in your vise, obviously, and just take your time. I can't stress taking your time enough. So many people get in a hurry to do things now, and they screw them up more. You don't want to be at my shop because you screwed it up. You want to be at my shop because you don't know how, or because I know exactly how to do it and I can get it done quickly. That's my thoughts on the matter. We're gonna take this Allen plug out, see if we can look down in there and get these shafts the shaft to line up better. If we can get one, the other one will kind of follow along, I think. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see what we can do here. Oh yeah, that's all. We're just out of alignment, as I suspected. Biggest thing is just get them. Take your time. Don't have to be in a rush. It's not a race. This stuff, this will be here tomorrow, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how quickly you get it done. If you screw it up and you got to take it back apart, you might as well have just taken 10 minutes and done it right in the first place. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take something to line this one up. Just use something like an Allen wrench or something to kind of line that one up. We'll go in here and reach around and see if we can grab hold of this other one and line it up. So it's probably the one holding us up. And believe me, once you get it lined up, you're going to know it. You'll have a distinct sound change in everything once you got it. Like, we don't have it yet, but we're going to get it because we're not in a rush. Like I say, you just don't want to be in a rush. It's not worth it. Time you rush this and then you don't get it done. I don't care what anybody says, it ain't a race. You got time. If you're doing it, it's only worth doing right. That's what my dad always told me. That's what my grandpa always said. That's what I've always been taught. If it's worth doing, it's only worth doing correctly. Take your time. If you're doing it for somebody else, well, they'll either wait or they won't. It doesn't matter. You're only able to do what you can do. So don't be ashamed to say, "Hey, man, I gotta take a few more minutes. This is not easy." If it's a good customer, they're gonna understand that you can't get it in 5 minutes for them. If they're not a good customer, well, maybe you don't want them. If they can't understand this kind of deal where it takes you time to line up everything, well, maybe they're not the person for your garage. Maybe they're not the person for your shop. Never think you got to have every single customer that comes through the door. It is good to try and service everybody, but I'm going to give you a lesson. Everybody is patient enough to deal with the fact that things can go wrong. And things can take an excessive amount of time. Not everybody is willing. Not everybody wants to accept that fact. Like in this case, I think we got something else holding us up here. I don't think it's what we think it is, but nevertheless, we're going to continue on this path. We're going to try to straighten this thing out a little bit. Make our vise loose and turn our vise this way. We're going to keep you guys in frame here. We're going to move where it is on the vise. Get us a drink. See what we can do here. It's going to go together. It might just take some time. So while I fiddle with this, I'm going to pause you guys. All right, we're back. I got it. I found one of the shafts wasn't lining up on an idler. Not a big deal. I ended up putting the shifter on just to make sure it went through the ranges before I did anything more. So I'm going to pick up a couple of tools here real quick. I want to bring you guys back, let you know I did get it back, far back together. And we're going to go ahead and finish putting this together real quick. And then we're going to go from there. But like I say, I ended up... I'll have to find a picture of it in the book. There was an idler here. I ended up taking that and flipping it over to the other case half and then using a pair of needle nose pliers to help line it up. It was an ordeal, but we're there. And now it's just a matter of picking up all the crud we drug out to get it back together. All the screwdrivers and vice grips and things like that. Because I used some vice grips to hold the brake shaft up in place so the gear would quit falling down on me. I ended up with my brass hammer to knock some bearings out of the case, so I had some more space for the shafts to move, more availability to get in there. So, that being said, that's what we had to go through. Now we just got to put some bolts in the case halves so that I can flip it over here, and then we'll flip it over in the vise. We might just put like 1 or 2 in it. Flip it over in the vise, tighten all of them up, and then we'll come back to the fact that we still have to put the axle stuff on there. But if I go after this John Deere that I'm looking at on Marketplace, I'll drop this off if I'm up that way, because he lives up towards where that is. So if I'm in his neighborhood or close to his neighborhood, I'll just go ahead and throw this in the truck with me and drop it off for him. That way he can put this back together today if he wants after he gets home from work. if he's not home from work when I go. It's hard to know for sure. So we'll find out. I think we're just gonna lay this right down on the bench now. These get a lot heavier once you get all the pieces, parts in them. But, you know, we still got to draw these case halves together a little bit, so we want to be careful. We're going to go around with a wrench or a socket wrench and do this. This is just to hurry up and bring all the bolts in. I'll probably end up, I think I am going to end up putting this back in the vise upside down. It acts like it's in gear, so that's not a good sign. So this is why we check things before we get too carried away, because it acts like it's in gear. It may not be, but I did check it for neutral and it seemed like it shifted through gears, but hey, it does not want to turn, which tells me that it might be in gear. Which shifter says we're in neutral, so see what's up here. See what's going on. And again, this is why I say take your time. And do it right. Nothing ever is easy if you hurry. You will be sorry. You will be doing things 2 and 3 times if you hurry. If you take your time, you might be all right. But I noticed there's a gap in the case housing, which tells me something's up. So let's take some bolts each. See if that unbinds us. So I put it through all the gears. Yeah, see, we were bound up for some reason. Somebody isn't happy coming together here. So let's see what's going on. I wonder what's going on here. Bring that together and we bind up. Okay. Wonder if we just knocked the bearing in too far or something, because we had to put some bearings in to remove a bearing and put it back in. So maybe we just put that in too far. Everything's good now. Again, this is why I say take your sweet time. It's not a race. And it doesn't matter how quickly you get it done. If you have problems, then you know that's what you're going to end up with, is a problem. See, once I draw that case down that way, we're good. But I bet when I draw this backside down, we're going to have a problem. Take 2 seconds here. Oh, yes, there it is. There its hiding spot is. Oh! Well, we got a big problem now. Let's show you what happened here. Started to bring that bolt down snug, and it just came right apart. So we definitely have a bigger problem. Anyways, I'm going to have to stop and look at this and see what's going on. Alright, so I put some silicone on it after I ground it, welded it, heated it, and welded it. You can do that with cast. It should hold up fine. It's in a non-stress point. We're not going to worry about it. But we did have a bearing failure. Had to order that. don't know when I'm going to see it. It is an obsolete bearing from Deere. Fortunately, I did find one online. And so I got it on order. So at this point, that's about all I can do. Go ahead and put it back together the rest of the way and hope for the best. He's okay with that. I talked to him. And so that's all that matters, really. But I still notice some wiggle in this input shaft. I don't know if we've done any good or if we haven't, but what we've done is the best we can with what we're given. 1964, so we're gonna hope for the best here. This is the original input shaft that was in it. To my knowledge, this is the original. So we'll just have to see what happens. We're gonna hope and pray. So we're gonna get that pin line up and then we can be done with this. Get the shifter back on. We're gonna reinstall the shifter. It's basically a reverse of what we did to take it apart from here. And we're gonna hope for the best. At this point, I don't know if there's much more we can do short of probably trying to find another transmission. That would probably be the last thing that we could do, is try to find another transmission and hope that we could do some good there. So I gotta get an Allen wrench for that. Otherwise, I think that we're just kind of barking up a tree that we really can't do a whole lot about. So that being said, we've done what we can, and we're gonna go ahead and put it back together and hope for the best. But it seems pretty wobbly still. Unfortunately, we are dealing with an obsolete transmission, to my knowledge. Most parts for it, from what I can tell, don't look to have availability, or they're very limited on availability, what we can get. So unfortunately, we're kind of just doing what we really can, and we'll just kind of go with the flow here and hope for the best, because at the end of the day, that's all we can do. We've got it back together for the most part, and so hopefully that will be good enough. We're going to find out here in a minute. And I hope we don't have to take it back apart to do anything, but if we do, we do. And we'll go from there. I mean, it's life. And this is probably our brake. I don't know what the starter push shaft is. It's Monday. I'm tired. Kid's homesick, so just trying to stay occupied. So, that being said, of course, I like to use Torx bits to do these kinds of things. It's still quite a lot wobbly. I have a feeling that we're going to be on the hunt for another transmission, but we'll see. We will see. This is the one that liked the best, so that kind of gives us a indicator of what we're dealing with. So looks like we got a combination of issues. So it is what it is. We're going to try it and see what happens, I guess. Hopefully we won't be back into it. In the meantime, I am going to hang on to this other input shaft, and we are going to see what we can do with it. I mean, we're not done with that. We're just kind of at a point where we can't know until we put it back together and see what happens. If it doesn't seem to be good enough, I think we're going to try. I think I'm going to try to find another transmission for him and go that route rather than take this one back apart. Maybe I can find one, being as it's just a Peerless. Maybe somebody out there's got a Peerless transmission that's good, and we can just go ahead and go that route and save a lot of headaches. This is really the first time I've had much trouble out of transmission on one of these, so I can't say that we could do anything differently at this point. I was hoping it'd be less wobbly, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be. It felt better in the case before we assembled it, so we're gonna try it. But like I say, I don't have a lot of confidence here. I gotta wait on a bearing to come now before I can proceed with a lot of it. I definitely can't get it installed because I don't have the tractor here, for one, and for two, well, biggest, I don't have the tractor here, and without that bearing we can't do anything. So we're gonna wait and see. Hopefully maybe I can end up changing some springs or something and keep some more tension on the belt, on that pulley, and on that secondary belt, and maybe that'll help the problem. I don't know. We shall see. We shall deal with that as it comes. But for today, I've got to wait for a bearing to get here. I don't know what kind of time frame we're looking at on that. I had to order it off the internet, and it's an unavailable bearing, so I hope that the time frame is not terrible, but it is what it is, you know. Made a mistake. Taking it apart, I knocked the old bearing, just kind of fell apart. It just had enough. It didn't want to be good anymore, so. And yes, I am using a crescent wrench because it's just sometimes easier to do some of this stuff with a crescent. Let's set this book out of the way. Move some things over so we got some room to work here. And this thing's getting heavier as we go, and it's getting more and more together as we go. So see the dots, so we know where everything went. Flip her down. Missed the bolt somewhere. Good thing that's still not together. There it is. That last bolt in. I love when you forget a bolt. But anywho, where we're at is just got to put the brake drum on it, and unfortunately I don't think I can put the brake drum on. I don't know if you can see that. Let's show you guys this, but the assembly on this side is going to be the same as this side, except for we got a brake drum. But unfortunately I've got to wait for this bearing to get here before I can put this brake drum on. So unfortunately I'm kind of at a standstill, but I'll get the tube on. When I knocked the bearing out to line up the shafts easier, it actually broke the bearing. So unfortunately it's unavailable from John Deere. So who knows when we're gonna get it, but yeah, that's where we are. So yeah, I might save all this, edit this, I don't know. Anyway, I'll post what I got. The rest of this assembly is the same as this side was, with the exception of if you're putting a brake pulley on instead of an input shaft. So yeah, I'll post this and we'll go from there, and hope you guys like what I've done. Thanks for watching.